And this is a draft season podcast. We are back with some more NBA draft profiles. It's your boy Young Raz coming live from where I usually come from. I'm here with my boy Sean 5K. Talk to him.
You already know, back with another film room breakdown exclusive, and none other on the docket today. USC big man Evan Mobley out of Temecula, California. Shout out to Kobe. But yeah, man, let's just get right into it, Raz. So all of the background about Evan Mobley, and it honestly pops off the screen once you start watching him. But he has the unicorn skill set. He has the modern day center. Everything that you need from a franchise center. And over the years, has how we actually value the big man has changed a lot. And we're coming off a Jokic MVP season. So, I mean, Raz, how you feeling about Evan Mobley and his outlook coming into the league?
I mean, like you said, to your point, he is that guard, that center that is impressively, like, he just has so much mobility to him. Very athletic, and he's what has scouts salivating now when we're talking about big men. The ability to have a big man who can possibly and potentially play make, dribble and shoot while still having rim protection prowess. He's perfect for today's NBA.
It's a slim build, so it's always interesting to watch like the body types of centers, because it takes a wide range of skills to be able to really play against any center. So yeah, we got Evan Mobley. He's listed at 215 pounds. But like you said, the NBA is a completely different sport when we're talking about facing these grown men. So so just staying on like his overall game. What's your favorite part about his game though, Raz?
Right now is his rim protection. I think obviously he's very skilled offensively, but I think just his like potential and like his room for growth, even as a rim protector, he was already great. I think he might have been the best shot blocker in college last year, in my opinion. And let me see, I'll pull it up right now. He had 2.9 blocks per game. And 95 total blocks, and those were the second most in the NCAA. So it's one of those things where it's like he has the instincts and great timing to block shots, and he's just getting, he's still young, so he's still going to get better athletically, in my opinion. So I think, put him in the right system and the right team, he's going to be a monster at the rim.
So yeah, let's start with the positives. That's always a good place to start. So I mean, the superlatives that Evan Mobley won, it's always great. And I feel like when these guys come into college for these one and done campaigns, there's a lot of expectations that come with the territory, and it doesn't necessarily lead towards immediate success winning. But for Mobley, 2021 Pac-12 Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, he quickly established himself as like one of the most impactful two-way players in the league. Advanced metrics darling, all of the stats actually level he brought to the game, and you can see his impact that he really made on the court. He deserves a lot of credit for that, because I always think about the Ben Simmons one and done season, but it's not winning in college basketball. It's not necessarily just something that one person can change. It sounds odd when we talk about basketball, but that's kind of how it works. A lot of guys really, you need the right infrastructure, you need the right guys around you. But to the credit of Evan Mobley, what he really brought to that USC team really changed what brought to them. So he, just a premier defensive playmaker, causes havoc at all three levels on the floor, frequently blew up plays. That's something you really want to see, even for a big man. And he might struggle a little bit with some of the more hefty back to the basket guys, but Evan Mobley's agility and mobility, like you said earlier, Raz, it really is something that gives him a lot of or just a template that could go either way in his career. But going towards the unicorn capabilities, the capabilities to bring that up, 12 for 40 on 3-pointers this season, which he doesn't necessarily project as an immediate 3-point shooter. So it's a place to just pump the brakes a little bit, because I think a lot of people looked at him as a just a pure floor spacer, but that's not really his game yet. That it's a hypothetical part of his game. But if you really look at him, the more you watch him, he's really comfortable facing up. His mid-range jump shots are pretty clean, and watching his comfort level, doing advanced stuff, is creating space for himself as a shooter. That's something that you don't really see a lot of centers possess. But for you, Raz, if just going towards actual weaknesses or stuff that could really be a detriment towards his upside, or just something that's not really being talked about a lot with his profile, what do you think? What do you really see as something that could slow him down when he gets to the next level?
I mean, the only thing, like, we're nitpicking 19-year-olds, really. Like, I mean, we could say he could become a better ball handler or a better passer, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's a center. I think what his thing is going to be is that he needs to put on a little weight. He's going to be playing against grown men, and the grown men will, they'll bang down there and they'll wear him down. I think he's about 215. That could be generous. So I mean, he could put on a little pound. Yeah, like he could put on some pounds and grow into his adult body, his NBA body, and his shoulders will get broader and he'll put on some weight and get stronger. And I think he'll be able to hang with some of the best big men in the league.
Yeah. So I think when we talk about a lot of players in the draft world or whatever you want to call it, a lot of things get looked at from a hypothetical perspective, but really actually thinking about, like, what's the product going to be when he's really facing in the league, because I feel like a lot of people just considered him somebody who's going to be able to just switch 1 through 5 right away. He has the ability to do that. I do think he needs to improve his technique a bit, opening up his hips, because he gets caught flat-footed at times, defending smaller guards, which is to be expected, to be honest. His build, he does have higher hips, so it's an interesting subplot. So one thing, because not even to make, because they're two different players, but it's just something that I've thought about a lot when it comes to Evan Mobley, and in particular with a guy that you and I both like, Raz, and I think we did talk about this in the earlier draft breakdown, but just highlighting what we've seen from Jaren Jackson, because you're a big Michigan State fan, and we're both, Jaren Jackson was number 2. My second, I had him behind Luka, only behind Luka, even ahead of like Ayton, which was probably controversial to some people at the time of that draft, 2017 draft, I believe. But just making the comparisons about Jaren Jackson, and obviously he's had his injury problems, which played a part in it. And Jared's a great player. I think the sky's still the limit for him. But when we're just talking about weaknesses that, because I see some of the weaknesses that plague Jaren that Evan might also have in the league. So what do you think about just because I do think when we just assume he'll be able to add strength to his profile, which he probably is, or he probably will. But that can take years, and it can be a rocky road. Just think of the corollaries between both of their weaknesses that they have, because that's he's not the shooter that Jaren is, which is why it's not a comparison that I'm making. But the weaknesses is a big thing. So for you, at least on the corollaries, what do you see as? I mean, even talking about just Jaren for a second, but just how he can manage that or work between those actual issues at the next level.
Thinking that someone has the ability to get stronger off the bat, we put a lot of stock into that. I think he's already a better rebounder than Jaren was coming out of college. So I don't think he'll struggle there as much as I think Jaren does in the league, where Jaren is 7 feet tall, but he's like a five rebound type of guy. I think Mobley will get more rebounds than that, and that's my one issue with him. I think is battling down low against NBA centers for rebounding. So that's my kind of red flag for Mobley. But I do think in the comparison to Jaren Jackson, he's already a better rebounder. So I don't think he's going to struggle as much as Jaren is in the strength department down low on the boards.
Yeah, but I think even so, to talk about his fit in the next level, because that's also what I've been thinking about here. Because even staying with the Jaren thing for a moment, somebody like his teammate Jonas Valanciunas, who had a great run down the stretch and in the playoffs for Memphis, But guys like that, having somebody next to him. But that's just something that if we're staying on the weaknesses for a second with Evan Mobley, that's kind of like I said, to bemoan the point some more, but just talking about how we're valuing centers and the replaceability of the centers. And not to say that centers don't matter, because they do, but taking a center in the top 5, you have to be a franchise center to really pay dividends on that investment. But Evan Mobley represents where the future of the center position is heading. Everything is about rangy big men with lateral quickness, and he covers a crazy amount of space on a possession basis, which is not something that most centers will be able to do. So as a long-term investment, that's just something that it's probably worth a top 5 pick alone, because there's not really guys that come out with that type of just range on defense. So I think Evan shot 55% in the restricted area on 258 attempts. Not overly impressive on the surface, but I do think one thing about Evan, which you haven't mentioned a lot, he had to create everything for himself at USC. I think that's a pretty big point when we really talk about it, man. He wasn't really getting fed. If he, like I said, the fit in the NBA will be interesting to see where he ends up on draft night. But playing with a great point guard is another one that he wasn't really a vertical rim lobber guy. So on that end, it really wasn't something that he did a lot. But a lot of it could be just having somebody or having the right guard who's able to make those passes for him. But that's something I would definitely say. His face-up game for a center is definitely, if you want to talk about an indicator of future upside, the fact that he was able to put up these numbers, and like you said, Rad, 16 points a game in 30 minutes, 2.9 blocks, 58% field goal percentage, and like I said, that's a lot of self-created looks. So I think that's probably, if you want to talk about the biggest, if you want to make the argument for Evan Mobley being a top 3 pick, top 5 pick, I think it is centered around what he did about just his creating his own offense. I also think as a rim runner, he has, and these are just instinctual things that you just pick up watching guys, but his ability to find space is something that I do think is able to just, I think that's a great space. And I mean, I think it's a great skill for him, because a lot of guys, if you ever watch big men or certain big men who, it's funny because you think rim running and diving out of pick and rolls is a skill that every big man will be great at, but you'd actually be surprised watching it, the type of big men who actually are great at it. And there's a lot of guys who sometimes when they dive, they just dive straight into, the opposing center or whoever is protecting the rim. But that's just something I've picked up from Evan Mobley himself, that, when he dives, he takes really good, routes and finding space to the basket. So it's stuff like that about why, it's definitely somebody who, has a lot of upside on the next level. But yeah, Raz, so just talking about, just any other questions about Evan Mobley? Like, what really stands out to you, or, just talking about where he might end up on draft night? I think a lot of places have had him mocked to Cleveland right now, which can be interesting because they do have, they got to throw my guy Jared Allen, who is a restricted free agent this year. So, Jared Allen is gonna probably get paid a hefty contract in free agency, or Jared, whatever you want to consider hefty, but he's gonna get a nice chunk of money this offseason. But if you want to invest that money or invest in the top 5 pick, but yeah, what do you just think about, or just last takes on his fit for Evan Mobley?
I mean, I think the one thing we have to bring up when we're talking about big men is hands. And Evan seems to have great hands. He catches pretty much most passes that are thrown his way, in an array of passes, bounce passes, chest passes, pocket passes, anything that, alley-oops, he's definitely going up and getting it. He's somebody who I'm excited to see him at the next level. And in terms of fits, if you're thinking somewhere mocking him up to Cleveland, obviously Cleveland has some issues right now in terms of what they're doing with, Love's contract. There's rumblings about Colin Sexton being traded, which, I don't know why one would do that, but I don't see an issue, honestly. I mean, him and Jared Allen together is, it could be overkill, but it could also be actually pretty, pretty good as a twin tower kind of set. It just depends on what coach is gonna get out of them, and it depends on Evan Mobley kind of expanding his range as a shooter. He's a decent pick and pop guy, but I mean, getting that jump shot down really fluid, I think he will fit well in Cleveland. I don't see him dropping past the top 5. That's a hot take. But I mean, do you see any other team you think that would fit him, greatly? I mean, I know the Warriors took Wiseman last year, and they were saying he was once in a generation big man. And no shade on Wiseman, but I don't think if he was in this draft, he would have been a top 5 player. So, I mean, I would have liked to see the Warriors get a do-over with Evan Mobley. That's not really going to happen. But, I mean, there's any other teams, you thinking that would be a good fit for him?
Toronto is pretty interesting. If you want to talk about just like as a development spot, Toronto is a great situation for any of these guys. It'll be interesting to see what they do there. Not really Orlando, OKC, but I don't really, like I said, we don't really see him falling. I really want to see him falling behind Toronto, depending on how the board shakes out. But yeah, man. My last thing on Evan Mobley, I would say, because he's definitely a nifty dribbler for his size. You even see him bringing the ball up in transition. That's something that it's just wild to see, like somebody a 7-foot guy like that actually bring the ball up in transition. But that's kind of the only thing. I don't think we haven't really spoke about his passing, which is probably the reason why you really wouldn't want to go or twin or double twin towers with centers, because his passing on the dribble or on the move when he puts the ball on the floor, that has a long way to go, which probably might limit some of his creation at the next level. That's definitely, because a lot of times whenever he would actually have to make passes out of post ups, he would either get tied up by smaller guards or somebody digging into his dribble, or he might just throw like an inaccurate pass to the corner for something. So yeah, that's definitely that was my last thing on Evan Mobley. But yeah, hit us up below. Let us know what you guys think of Evan Mobley and what you guys see for him in his first season and beyond in the NBA. This is your Draft Season Podcast, Film Room Break.